All right, let's talk about Texas, shall we? In Texas, the Republican Party has an official new platform that calls for the state to secede from the United States. So, this is a big one. We're going to go over it because I noticed online there's a lot of rhetoric about panning this document, and it does read like a compendium of all the things that the Republican Party says on Fox News, right? That liberals just kind of lose their mind over and make fun of and don't otherwise consider. But I think that a document like this is important to discuss because it proves a couple of things about American culture. One is that there is this division of and these subsets of people who do not feel like the federal government represents them any longer.
Would you say subset of people? I don't feel like the federal government, I'm not a subset. I feel like there's a majority. I think if you think 100 million people don't vote for either party, they think that both of these parties are a joke. I don't think it's a
Okay,
subset anymore.
maybe not subset, but there are at least groups that you could pull apart by state lines,
Sure,
right?
sure. Okay.
Yes, that's not a subset, but I think it's worth taking seriously because a lot of times I think that the United States is too big for any one federal system to represent people around the world, around the country, rather, right? Because living in California is just as different, is so different from, say, living in Texas or Alabama or any other state, right? And we have I don't know. I just feel like it's becoming ridiculous to think that these states are united. So let's talk about what this one document wants for a separate culture, right? So the party is calling on a vote to secede the union in 2023. So look at count 224, right? It says the legislator that we are asking the state legislature to pass in its next session requiring a referendum in the 2023 general election for the people of Texas to determine whether or not the state of Texas should reassert its status as an independent nation. Now, look at some of the other things. That's just what I highlighted for you here, but some of the other things on this page alone 223, no, the previous one that we were just on. Yes, 223, no campaign contribution limits. None.
Okay.
227, no gun-free zones in Texas. Okay. Uh, no legalization of marijuana, that kind of thing. 225, I cannot mention here on YouTube. You can read it yourself. Let's look at number 21, the next one. No executive orders. I'm sorry, this is number 20. Executive orders. We oppose all executive orders, not even by the president, a governor, or a local official. Clearly, this is in response to the pandemic, right?
Yeah.
Let's look at the next one, number 21A. We no mass lockdowns of the people, our businesses, or churches. No form of government shall ever again, right? This is in response
It's like
to
their own
COVID.
it's like their own constitution.
Yes,
Yeah.
we decide you may never do this to us again, right? Let's look at number 32, the next one. The right to bear arms, it's hefty here, right? A repeal and nullify of the Gun Control Act of 1968, all kinds of just like no gun control that ever will limit our right to have firearms. Number 36, abandon abortion, right? Abolish abortion and give equal protection to the laws of all preborn children from the moment of fertilization, right? Number 40, the next one, oppose carbon taxes. And look at number 42, the next one, please. Oh, nope, we don't have that one. Excuse, okay.
Just read it.
So what it would say was oppose environmentalism that gets in the way of legitimate business. If you go to number 8, the one you just had up, yep, that one. Businesses shall not be held liable for COVID, right? This again is in response to the pandemic. So if someone comes into your store and gets COVID, you cannot sue them, that person, right? All businesses now are not held liable. Also, the government should not instate mask mandates. That's number 69, which I did not highlight. Number 68, all jobs are essential. So you cannot decide which businesses stay in business and which ones don't.
Hmm.
Look at number 82, a repeal of all number of taxes, the estate tax, inventory taxes, business franchise tax, the Affordable Care Act, home sales tax, basically no to taxes, which is a big one in Texas, right? The section number, let's see, the next section is extensive on education. It bans critical race theory and sexuality education, as well as bans school from providing healthcare, hormones, birth control, and other medicines that they want parents to control for their children. Later, we're going to talk about how long they consider parents the decision makers for children.
ML in our chat says, I'm in Texas. This is a declaration of independence. She says in the
Yes, it
chat.
is, right? And I want to talk about that later because it does seem like this is a declaration of all the things that Texas is currently litigating against the federal government for its right to do, right? So they are trying already to make these laws. The federal government keeps stepping in and saying, you can't do that, actually. You have to do it this way. And they're going to court over it. So this is a document just giving them the rights to do this and saying, we give up. We don't want to play by your rules. This is how we want it to be, right? This section 142 on gender identity not only opposes normalizing transgender curriculum, but also the pronouns. Like, nope, none of that. They, them, just not there. The next one, the section on homosexuality and gender issues, this I do find chilling. It says there should be no equal legal entitlements for homosexuals. No one should be punished for opposing them. So that means this story where the bakery didn't want to make a cake for a gay wedding, right? And was taken to court. Under this law, you could not sue a business for opposing any services to homosexuals. It prohibits professionals from any gender altering surgery, or it prohibits like medical professionals from hormone blocking medication. A few other tidbits that I didn't write out here, but I just felt like mentioning. It rejects social media censorship, free market solutions for utilities wherever possible. So no public utilities if possible. They want entrepreneurs to be able to privatize and make money from those things. Regulation of groundwater is supported. I find this really interesting. I have an interview coming up here with an expert on water use in the United States, and I find that fascinating. It supports giving parents access to medical records, school grades, or other records until the child is 26, or as long as parents are paying for their college or living expenses. I think that's really fascinating too, because a lot of times in America, a child can go off to college and make these decisions that maybe their parents wouldn't otherwise support, but they are financially supporting the child. So interesting, right? Abolishes Planned Parenthood, preserves the Alamo. I didn't know about this, like, reform the Alamo movement. I looked into it a little bit and then decided I didn't have time for it. I welcome your comments. Gay marriage, we talked about. It opposes trade with China and development. It opposes development of nuclear war in Iran and North Korea. And then this last one, 272, I thought was interesting. It protects sovereignty for the US and rejects any authority from foreign entities such as the World Economic Forum, the World Health Organization, and the United Nations, right? It says we reject the concept of a one world government or the Great Reset. They want nothing to do with that, right?
I love it.
Well, I don't love all of it, but
No, I love I love 95% of it. They want to get rid of the World Economic Forum. They want.
you don't love 95% of it.
I think. Oh, I didn't read all of it, but I mean, most of it spoke to me. I'm like, oh, they
No
don't want.
taxes? Yes.
Yeah.
Right?
No executive orders. No.
No COVID lockdowns? Yes. No mask mandates? Sure. Yeah, I'm for a lot of that, right? But a lot of the sort of social pieces of it I find very uncomfortable, such as denying services to homosexuals, right? That is not the world we live in right now. And I think that, we could debate them one by one, but I think what's interesting is that these are the things that Texas keeps trying to do because they're elected officials are trying to do these things, right? Less gun control, less social media censoring, um, no abortions. All of these things are currently working their way through the courts. And so Texas is saying, we don't have to keep suing you, federal government, or fighting you in courts
We're done.
if
We're
you
out of
just
here.
let us do this, right? Um, so I think that it's interesting to wonder how long could these 50 states remain 50 when there is a portion of the population, a large portion of the population that agrees with this manifesto.
Well, and it's interesting too, demographically, when you think about Texas and the people that are moving to Texas, and there's been a lot of people saying, "Hey, is Texas going to become a purple state, or and eventually become blue?" Right?
Hmm.
Is that what's going to happen? Right? Because so many people moving from California, so many people moving from the Pacific Northwest, so many people moving from New Jersey and other places like that down into Texas and into Austin and those areas.
Yeah.
Is that going to happen? And so you certainly see this demographic shift into Texas that's, where a lot of liberals are saying, oh, there's no taxes there?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't have to pay. Oh, okay, great. I can live more cheaply. It's safer. I have maybe access to better schools. It's not as draconian when it comes to laws. The weather is better. I don't have to worry about wildfires and all of this craziness.
Right.
Of course, then you get these weird freezes that have been happening.
I
But
don't know. I think if not for some of these social pieces that I find so scary, I would otherwise not say, like, let's give it a try, you know? Although there was a Supreme Court ruling in 1869 that prevented states from seceding, but that was a very different Supreme Court, right?
right.
And as we were talking about just this weekend when we were watching this National Treasure movie, the Declaration of Independence does leave room to throw off a government if it no longer serves you.
I mean, this is Thomas
So
Jefferson's.
Texas is evoking this ethos that is woven into the very foundation of being an American.
This is Thomas Jefferson's ethos, right? It's the idea that if you, first of all, a government should always fear its people. The people should never fear its government.
That's not the
That's
way I
not
am
the case.
living.
No, we fear our government. And this, if Thomas Jefferson were alive today, this would not be the government that he would want. He would want us to throw off the shackles of this government and start afresh, to start anew. Like, this is not the government that he foresaw at all. This is the exact antithesis of that, right? The thing is, though, we talked earlier about, like, can you imagine Canada stepping in and preventing the United States from getting access to Alaska via rail lines and shipping lines and things like that? Think about the oil and the resources that sit in Texas. There's no
Yeah.
way. Like, think about the war that would unfold. I mean, if suddenly Texas is like, we're done, we're taking all our oil, bye bye, we're out of here.
But if the United Kingdom can leave Europe, then stranger things could have happened, right? I don't see the federal government letting Texas go easily. I see this as a long shot, right? But I don't think the factions that have created this document will dissipate, even if there is no seceding of this state. They will stay. They will get stronger. People will continue to feel this way no matter what happens.
Yeah, people have said this about California for a long time. California, its economy in many ways fuels a lot of states in the United States.
Yeah.
So it's what is it? The third is California. If it was its own country,
It's
it'd be
the
like the fourth largest in the world
the
or
fifth.
something.
I think it's the fifth largest economy in the world. And that was the point I was just about to make was the idea that I think that gets missed. And I mean, you see it every now and then, people making the argument, but Texas takes in more federal aid than it gives back in taxes. And
Say
so
that
it would
again?
basically, like, Texas takes in more federal aid than it pays back in taxes.
Right.
But it has a lot
And
of
so
private wealth that I think this document is inferring that they could live on.
So what you're arguing, though, Philip, is
Sure.
the idea that, well, in some ways this would help the federal government, right? Because then the federal government wouldn't be taking money from New Jersey and New York taxpayers. And this is arguably what's been happening for a long time, is that the northern states subsidize southern states. That has long been the case. You look at where the tax outlays go, that's what happens, right?
Yeah, and you see that argument quite a bit. It's just that you have places like New York, like California, which actually pay out more in taxes than they bring in federal aid. And so some of the states that are arguing for secession are at a deficit with taxes anyway.
Mm.
Yes.
Would it be
So
enough though to keep them from doing it? Right now they're cut off. Would they go into their own form of a recession, or would they have
Well,
enough
I
tax
mean,
base?
I think the GOP thinks that private wealth is the key to success, not necessarily governmental wealth. And they also address welfare programs. Of course, the Republican Party is not for it. They think everyone should be able to handle their own. Whether or not I haven't seen those economic models. I don't know whether they pan out, but we do know that these, again, are the things that Republican senators say on the news.
It
So
is
that
an
tracks.
it is an interesting thought experiment to think, okay, so a lot of tax outlays come from the north and flow into Texas. Now, Texas has a very agreeable tax structure right now. That's why a lot of businesses have moved there, because they don't
Yes.
have to pay the taxes that they pay in other places, in
Yeah.
New Jersey and California, right? So they're able to go there, and then they're able to sort of live off of the taxes that are prepared and collected in other states. So it's kind of a balance. It's this weird balancing act,
Wait,
right?
I don't understand what you said.
So, okay, Texas is favorable because you're able to move there, like Apple
They
built a
don't have state
headquarters.
income tax.
State income tax is not there. So all these employees, right? Tesla, Apple, all
Yeah.
of these companies are moving there, building factories, car manufacturers, et cetera. So they're able to go there and it's favorable, but it's favorable in part because the federal government funnels tax money and subsidies from other states, from northern states, from New Jersey and New York,
Yes.
and exorbitant taxes. That's how it sort of flows through the coffers. And so if you cut that off, would they be able to stand? I mean, I think they would. I think they might have to start. They might not want to create income taxes, but they might have to,
Yeah.
right? I mean, they might have to do something to raise taxes if suddenly they can't get taxes from other states.
I don't know. It's very like bootstrap, right? Pun intended.
Yeah, it's an interesting
It's
thought.
a very bootstrap type argument that we could do it ourselves. We don't need you.
I mean, you could look at other countries that have done that and declared their independence, and they go through like these periods of dark times. They go through a recession for a number of years until
Yeah.
they're able to pick themselves up.
A lot of it is like, look, we keep Texas taxes in Texas. We keep Texas projects in Texas, Texas taxes for the people. So even their federal taxes, they're just like, we don't need that.
Ivan in our chat, Ivan Goldbit says, yeah, Texas would start taxing. I mean, that's the question, right? I'm just saying.
But if Texans already pay a federal tax, then they wouldn't, and there is no state tax, the tax would remain the same.
I mean, just
Could remain the
look
same.
at history. Look at the history of countries that have relied. I mean, look at colonialism. Look at the United States relying on the crown, right? So we got upset about what was it? Was it the Stamp Act, right? The tax on tea, but yeah. So the tax on tea, of course, in the Boston Tea Party, right? Where we don't want to pay these taxes on this tea. Like, how dare the British Crown do this? We'll dress up as Native Americans and pretend that and trash the boats and do it with the whole thing. But look, the same in Vanuatu, right? The country of Vanuatu that threw off and became independent from colonization. Not exactly a booming economy. Same with Belgium when it threw off the shackles.
It was French, right?
French and Britain, I think so. Yeah, and same thing with Belgium that threw off when it became independent from Holland. Like, you have to build. There's a lot of dark periods before you're on your own feet. So I don't know. I just like the idea.
Maps change. Again, it's one of these thought experiments. Is would you move into a place because you have more freedom to live your life, freedom from executive order and COVID lockdowns and that kind of thing, but you also have very few social rights if you are not a cisgendered person, right? So that also is very chilling.
Thank you so much for subscribing to our channel. We've been banned, we've been blocked, we've been censored. That's why we started our own website to stay connected with you for free.
That's right. So head on over to redacted.inc and make sure you're connected with us. You can sign up again at redacted.inc, not .com.